This is the Amp Hour Podcast, released September 8th, 2019. Episode 457. Dott, Ernest, Annty, Frost.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
Who will no doubt tell us all about his camping experience.
Well, actually, Dave, I did that in a past episode of the Amp Hour, so you can go and listen to that.
Oh, did we?
Well, I did, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's...
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about it here, but yeah, we did kind of a recap with Alvaro from the Unnamed Reverse Engineering podcast, and then also Mike.
Right, I didn't know you did a recap. I thought it was just interviewing people there.
No, it was like a last day of camp thing, and it's kind of
right. Okay.
It's a little navel gazy, like a little introspective.
Right.
And I never really know if people like that, because it's like, well, here's this event that people didn't get to go to. We were kind of talking about everything that was happening, but yeah. Synopsis is it was fun. I spent a little too much time on my talk. And so I didn't get to experience everything. I wasn't as prepared.
Well, you spent too much time preparing on your talk at the camp?
At the camp, yeah. That was on me.
Well, there's your problem.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's like, so it's actually this thing where, you give talks too, and it was like, I have this this very optimistic view on life where I'm like, oh, well, I'll learn more things if I really stretch myself on a topic.
Right.
And that is correct. I did. I did stretch myself quite a bit. But that meant I was also quite stressed. And the talk is now online. People can watch it. It's, yeah. So it's basically about how I've been learning RF stuff and my journey with that. And Mr. Jeffrey Kaiser of MightyUm.com was very kind and gave me tons of advice and help. So from that perspective, it's actually great, talking through a lot of issues, but a little stressful on the old... getting up in front of a crowd and the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah, it reminds me of my talk I gave to over 1,000 at the DevCon thing. This is way back in the early days. One of my first field recording for the Amp Hour when I recorded from the hotel room in in where was I, in Silicon Valley somewhere. Anyway,
you're talking about that's Renaissance, right?
Renaissance DevCon.
Yeah, right.
That was 2010. Maybe.
No, really? Oh, wow.
I think so. It was 2010 or 2011.
It was definitely before you guys had kids, I think, because you wouldn't have traveled otherwise. Or maybe you were just having kids.
No. We just found out, she was pregnant a week before we left or something. And we almost didn't leave because she was going, I don't think I can get on a plane for 14 hours or whatever,
Right. Which is legit, yeah.
yeah. And but we made it, and it was okay. She just didn't go on any of the rides at Disneyland though, because our hotel was just around from Disneyland,
right.
just around the street from Disneyland. So we went to Disney, and she was so looking forward to going on,
Yeah.
And she just had to go on the kiddie rides or whatever.
the Dumbo slow cups, whatever.
The teacups and and one of the rides broke down. I love when the rides break down. It was one of those dark rides, where you hop in the buggy and you go through
yeah.
And when they break down, you get to hop out and they turn the lights on and you get to see, actually behind the sines.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Of how it all works.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm pretty,
it's interesting.
I'm pretty, so I'm not a Disney person. I went as a kid and my family likes it, but I'm not a huge fan. However, I got to have lunch with an Imagineer a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago,
cool.
I get to now, and he was telling me about the new Star Wars land that's there, and oh man, that sounds cool.
It sounds cool. I've heard it's a flop though. I heard no one's turning up. But
really?
I've heard it's really good. Yeah.
Well, the thing that was really exciting to me was you can go and make it's like a Build-A-Bear workshop, but you do it with droids. It's like a
droids. Yeah,
droid workshop. You go and pay. You have to pay $100 some, and you get to take it with you. You build it up, you design it yourself, whatever you take it with you. But the thing that I really liked about it, and the thing that's kind of techie about it, is it's got Bluetooth inside, and the Bluetooth and the little droid basically responds to these beacons that are all over the park, and so it gets real excited when it's in the rebel territory, and real scared when Like
That's pretty cool.
What are they
Yeah.
called? Like stormtroopers go by and stuff. And
Yep.
yeah, I just think that kind of like it feels magical. You know, I like that
yeah,
idea.
yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
feels real. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm going to be out in LA area for SuperCon in November, and I might just have to slip by there. I don't know. We'll see.
You
how it
might
goes.
have to slip. Yeah. Why not? Do
Yeah,
it.
Right.
Do it.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. Before we got sidetracked onto Star Wars, of course.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my talk at DevCon. You know, I was sitting in I was supposed to give this, talk about this contest, right? I was introducing this
right.
contest.
I remember that.
Right? And then did this design contest, hundreds of thousands of dollars in prizes, blah, blah, blah. Right? And I had to give like a 5-minute talk or something on that. And I was going after James Meigs, who was the editor of Popular Mechanics,
Okay.
former Popular Mechanics. Anyway, so I'm sitting like I hadn't prepared. So I'm like sitting in my hotel room, sweating chips, trying to write stuff down and then try and rehearse it. And it's like, it just like too much stress, didn't work. Like I cannot write scripts. I cannot.
It's tough.
do-
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
it's
people
why
that get
they
up
do
on
it for the
stage and
show,
are engaging and funny and like have like
Yeah.
usually they have like rehearsed the same thing over and over. Like they know timing and stuff like that. It's very impressive.
I can tell you about. Well, I did eventually do that for another gig, but in the end, I just tore it up and went, oh bugger it, I'll just wing it like I normally do. And sure enough, I get up there and I went, and I was standing beside the stage with James Meigs, and he had given this like prepared 1 hour, half hour talk or whatever. It was really good, really polished. But that's his business,
Right.
Yeah, he actually does speaking engagements like that. You hire him, I saw him last night on one of these TV shows. He's like the resident, they always get him for, technical,
Right, he's
talking
like the
about
reference point.
tech history and stuff, yeah. And so anyway, he was used to that, and he came off and he said, "Oh, have you been rehearsing your speech and stuff?" And I went, "No, I just gave up. I was going to wing it." And he went, "Are you serious?" Yeah. And he got up there. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Wasn't a problem. I might have rambled on a little bit, but generally I stuck to point. I thought, and it just
that's
worked.
good, man. I don't think I could. I don't think I could
Yep.
wing it with RF stuff because I'm
Right. No,
still
it's
learning.
hard.
When the talk's about learning it, it's not going to wing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then when I did the 5-minute Ignite talk, that I rehearsed.
Right. Yeah. Because
And
timing critical stuff.
It's timing critical. You have exactly 5 minutes, and your slides change every 15 seconds. So you literally have to rehearse that. But I did go off script a couple of times during that, and it still worked. So,
That's good.
Yeah. Anyway. Yep. Giving talks. Don't bother writing a script. Just
okay.
Get up there and talk.
Sure. I think. Well,
It's
I
the
think that's the
advice
thing, and that's the advice that eventually I got from someone. I forget who it was, but they're like, why are you giving talks about things you don't know a lot about? If you give a talk about a thing that you know a lot about,
you shouldn't have to write.
Yeah,
it.
exactly. You just kind of put some slides down. You have some visual aids, and then you just go. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, well, that. I had since done that in my talk at Teardown, which I'm not sure if I ever posted, but it was about just like streaming video and like how to record video quickly and stuff. Obviously a non-technical talk too, but like it was literally like 2 hours of slides I put together, and then it was just going through them, and it was easy. So yeah.
I just gave a talk the other week at Sagan School. They invited me in for all these Year 7 students, which is probably freshmen in the US, like
No.
13-year-olds.
Oh, wait. Sagan.
Is that like
sorry.
freshman, high school freshmen?
Year 7 threw me off. I was like 7-year-olds or not freshmen?
No.
Yeah,
No, it's year 7. Yeah, year 7 is the start of high school here.
Okay. And how high does it
So,
go? To 10? 11?
10 through to 7 through to 12.
Oh, that wouldn't be. No, that would still be middle school here.
Right.
Year 7 would be.
What's the first year of high?
Like in the U.S.,
what's high school
year
called
9,
there?
year
Middle
9
school.
is freshman, year 10 is sophomore, year 11 is junior, year 12 is senior. That's at least
Right.
not all schools, but that's the ones that's what I was used to. So.
Right. Okay. Anyway, yeah, they're a bunch of 13-year-olds, and they had this STEM week. They were having a whole week where they had to build like a solar, solar water heater or something.
Oh, that's cool.
And which is really cool, And anyway, so they wanted to give me the keynote welcoming thing, and they wanted me to, talk for it was 30 minutes or something. And it was like, okay, I can talk for 30 minutes. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't bother writing a thing. I just did some slides, PowerPoint slides and stuff like that, and then I just winged it. So
That's
yeah,
great.
it works fine.
That's great.
Maybe they were bored. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, well, that's cool, man. What was the topic?
Renewable energy. So I talked
great.
about renewable and all that sort of stuff, and I gave them all a lump of coal. I was so excited.
That's
You
good.
have no idea. Like I said, I bought along like a bag of coal, and that was like the best thing ever for them. It was like because they had never seen or touched coal before.
Right.
So I just
Now,
thought
kids,
it'd
we're
be
going to
really
light it
cool.
up and inhale it in your lungs. Really understand the implications of coal on your system.
And where do you get coal? I hear you ask. Well, this guy who sells them on Facebook. So
Seriously? Oh, weird.
yeah. Guy
man.
sells them on Facebook, and I went to his house, and he just leaves the bags out the front, and you leave the cash in the letterbox, and you walk away with your bag of coal.
And
Great.
What is the purpose of? What is he selling it for? Is he selling it for actual?
All of your model train,
Oh, yeah, that
like
makes
your
sense.
real steam model
Sure,
train
sure.
enthusiasts, they get the real deal.
Right.
They
Yep.
don't want any of that Coke stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's real coal. It's not the refined Coke. It's not that smokeless Coke.
Got it.
Rubbish.
Got it. You want the
So,
real
yeah.
effect coming out.
Yeah,
the
you want the real effect of
coming
the
out the
smoke
steam
coming
stack.
out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So-
if people are interested in I put all my slides online. Cool new program for doing slide stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's all online and learn.
Yeah, but the slides don't help though. You've got to have your commentary, right?
Well, it depends on how you do the slides. In my case, I didn't really, I didn't leave much room for interpretation. So the slides,
Oh, okay.
but
right.
also they
the
had like
slides tell the
references
story.
and a lot of
Yeah.
links and stuff like that. So those are all on. I link all that stuff in the talk and in the slides and stuff. But yeah, RF stuff. It's been good.
That is handy. Like I've seen lots of presentation. Like I search for something and here's a presentation, and I go in to look at it, and it's like the slides either, and there's one of two types of people who do these slides. One that just like put up a picture and there's no words, there's no text, there's no data points, there's no nothing. So it's absolutely so the slides are useless without any technical reference like the talk to go along with it. Others are so detailed that you simply don't need the person talking.
Right.
It's like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd kind of towards the latter side there.
The latter one there. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
But
Very
yeah,
good.
lots of good stuff in there, and stuff we talked about on the show here too. But we're talking about test equipment, and the whole talk was basically around like things that my assumptions that are a DC rather that don't really work at RF, and
Right.
So I thought that was kind of a good way to frame things. I thought so like
Yep.
like cutouts in PCB traces, right? So like cutouts in ground planes, to try and like keep low frequency noise. There's like a whole. I always refer to the Hank Zumbalin. So Hank has been on the show before, right? And he has a great app note about the ADCs and how to basically get low noise performance out of your ADCs and stuff like that. And then kind of like looking at, and he actually does some treatment on the RF side of things and like higher speed stuff. But like how does that then square with higher speed techniques? And like if you have an RF signal that's finds a cutout in a trace, it doesn't really care. It just treats that, becomes an antenna
Yeah.
effectively. And it's like, okay, that's bad idea. But so yeah, just kind of like squaring those two things together.
Yes, analog to digital converters for low frequency stuff and like RF stuff, completely different beasts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I of course come from the field where 20 kilohertz, that was high frequency.
Right, exactly. Yeah, same,
like-
samesies.
Yeah.
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 That, I don't know if
So,
I mentioned
yeah.
on here too. There was a really good book that it was actually the Kindle book from like a company that does like layout for a living. And they did like it was all about like RF and high speed layout. And I can put the link in here too. But it was like basically different stack ups you have and different guidelines and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot from that book too. So a lot of good books out
Cool.
there. Yeah.
PCBs. I'm still amazed at PCBs.
Yeah, I
I'm
saw
sorry.
you're buying cheap ones,
yeah.
huh?
I'm JLC again.
Yeah.
And like $2.
I'd say you're
$2
more
for 5
interested in
boards.
economics. That's what you're really.
I'm more interested in the economic
And
side of
scale.
things, and then Scotty from Strange Parts,
Yeah.
who's done an excellent, awesome
Yeah.
factory tour of JLC, shows you every step in the process. And he replied to my tweet saying, "Yeah, I think they make a loss on those boards."
Totally.
They don't. Is any? I need to ask the question. I asked this on Twitter, but I don't know. Haven't checked if anyone's responded yet. Does anyone know of a PCB place that only does cheap prototypes?
No.
Like I'm talking the actual factory. I'm not talking the service like dirty PCBs who don't actually make the boards themselves. Right. I'm talking about the actual factory.
You're talking
who
about like to see if
only
it's like a isolated, just low cost. It's like a loss leader factory that's by standalone. You're saying
Exactly. I want to know if it's economically possible for a factory just to do nothing else but $2 prototype, boards. Because I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's possible.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why there's limits on it too, right? You can't get, the same cost per board. Well, maybe you can, but the cost per board. What is it like? So you got 5 boards for $2.
5 boards for $2. Yeah.
Right. And like if you did like the cost per square centimeter or whatever it is, you'd probably start to approach that with other things, but they put limits on how many boards you can buy like that at that price. It starts to scale.
Well, it
pretty
gets
fast.
very expensive at size. If you want a large board, right, it's not $2 anymore. It's only because it's tiny.
Right.
It's only a few inches square.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. Anyway, it just.
Yeah, the thing with that
every
is
time I just
the thing
never
that
get
bugs me about
never
that
gets
is
old.
actually the specifications that like it's just hard to compete with. Like that's, and again, we're not like we're not like inherently promoting the service here. We're not getting paid to say anything here. We both have used it, but like, man, the minimums.
Well, there's many that do the same thing.
Sure, but like
it's not just them. There's tons of them.
But it's you get controlled impedance though too for that cost, and you get like 3.5 mil space trace. Like you know what I mean? That's just like it's a lot lower than like. So then
Sorry, you don't get controlled impedance dielectric. You don't get the special dielectric.
I'm pretty sure you do, Dave. Maybe not at the lowest price. Maybe it's just the okay. Maybe.
No, I don't think there's.
Okay, maybe I'm looking
option
at something different. But
Yep. Through PCB Way, I think have a checkbox option for like a Rogers control, like proper
sorry, not
Rogers material.
Sorry, it's a known stack up for JLC. They have like a standard stack up.
Oh, and
So,
well, yeah,
246,
all of them will give you a known stack up. Yeah, and then you can design your controlled impedance traces.
Right,
but I can, when I hear the word controlled impedance, I'm thinking
You're thinking like special materials.
special controlled materials.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's different. This is a standard FR4 of some type.
Oh, my boards have just turned up. Hang on.
Really? This is what we're doing? Anyways, Dave going to check on his boards. And so the thing that as Dave comes back here,
Here we go.
I'll continue.
Hang on.
Yeah,
My
you
headphones
open
back
your
in.
thing. I'm trying to talk to the audience here, Dave, instead of walking away from the microphone.
All right. My friendly DHL courier just turned up.
I still point people to PCB Shopper. I think that's still a good resource out there. And
Yep.
yeah, I think it's
All
like
right.
it's hard to compare everything in there. And if you've never done a PCB before as well, then it's like it's hard to kind of figure out what you should or shouldn't be putting in there. I actually went through this at the training that I helped with out in Black Hat. I did like like when you're looking at those standardized ordering interfaces, it's hard to like know what does and doesn't matter. And so
Yep.
like it's I don't know. I think like the
I was going to do a video on that.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. I mean I think
of like every single option. There are like some that have a lot more options. I think
yeah. Yeah, PCB Way has a ton.
is one of the ones that really have a lot more options.
Right.
And
I think as like a general thing, like if you keep your board to a standardized size, if you keep your board to like, 20 by 20 millimeters, and like then you can really start to compare. If it scales
that's
like
tiny.
I know, but it starts to scale monetarily at least, pretty linearly with features and stuff like that. And so you can at least see then it's like, oh, I clicked this thing, it just got way more expensive. that was probably bad. You know,
Right.
probably bad
Yeah,
by design or
It's
replicability
right.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, I usually point people at Notchpark too as like a standard just to start at, but even them, like they have, you know, like Enig is great because it's like a flatter finish usually, and you know, you usually it's usually higher quality on all these things, but you know, you're going to pay for that at certain places too. So
You pay an extra, yeah. Exactly.
So-
Your boards, you know, price of your boards instantly triples because you added the gold finish. Anyway, I got my boards. They are correct. They are red, and I could choose my own color. There's no price penalty for choosing your color.
Yeah.
So I chose red, of course, because it goes faster. And I've got my 5 boards. Here they are for $2. It cost me $17.
Like a sports car? Is that what you mean? Like it goes faster? Like
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I forgot to order the parts, so the boards came, and I've got nothing to put on them. Oops. That was dumb.
Oops. What you making?
So I'm making the 3-cent micro programmer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yes. This is the open source, programmer thing. So I'm going to do a video on that.
Oh,
so
great.
yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
What are you hoping to do with those parts?
Oh, this is the actual programmer board.
Yeah.
Oh,
What do you
with the actual parts.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't plan on doing anything.
Okay.
But a lot of people have asked for the video, a follow-up.
Got it. Okay.
Video of, like I don't want to use the company's quasi C compiler.
Right.
And I don't want to use their dodgy, like their own actual programmer. So somebody's reverse engineered the protocol and they've done their own hardware programmer, and it's now supported by an open source C compiler toolchain. So
Great.
yeah, great.
So then,
So yeah,
how are you? So you're just gonna write like, so are there any drivers written for it yet, or is it just so simple that it doesn't need anything?
It's so simple you don't need them.
Got it.
I'm just going to flash a LED or
Got it.
do a spy
And
bus or something.
what is the package type that the cheap micro's in?
You can get different ones. They're in SO8 upwards. I don't think they're any smaller than SO8.
Oh,
I
that's not
don't think
bad.
they're available in little micro QFN thingy bobs or something like that. But yeah, no, they generally are DIP or standard SO. So
For 3 cents. That's pretty crazy.
3 cents. Yep.
That's cool.
So that's
cool.
great. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to build that up. So that is terrific. I'm absolutely stunned at that, and the speed with which they do it. Like Scotty Strange Parts, he said that he's of the opinion that they sort of slot these prototype boards in between the large production runs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Fill up panels and stuff like
But they turned it around
that.
within hours. Like it was and it was a weekend, so they're running this factory 24/7.
Yeah.
And it was just insane. Anyway, I'm thoroughly impressed. And which brings us, speaking of China and stuff like that, I'm actually quite surprised at the impact of the tariff, the trade. The trade war, is that the generic word for it now?
I think so.
These days.
Yeah, U.S. and China.
Yeah, US-China trade war, and how no US companies are allowed to sell to any components to Huawei anymore. They're not allowed to.
I think those are separate things,
Seldom,
but
and
yes, the tariff is also in there.
Yeah.
So
And there's talk of this one company in the Zhuhai province or city somewhere, and they've laid off like thousands of workers because all of us virtually overnight because they stopped selling parts to them and they couldn't do anything anymore, and
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's
they downsized from 20,000 and now they have a skeleton crew of a few dozen.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
this is like I think some of it is a little bit reactionary. Like sometimes people like forecast this stuff, but at the same time, if you don't have like cash flow, you can't pay your workers. So that's kind of the choice.
Wow, they had to lay off 20,000.
I saw also in the States,
overnight.
this might have been in that CNBC article that we'll link, but there was, they're basically looking at like manufacturing jobs, which is like, I think it said it was like 8 or 10% of the U.S. economy at least, but the growth is just flat. I think it was a different article. Yeah, so it was a different article, but basically manufacturing was like adding like, I think like 20 or 40,000 jobs a month in the States last year at the same time, and now it's like 3,000 or something like that. I'll have to check the numbers, but it was effectively flat, whereas it was actually growing in the past. And the U.S. manufacturing definitely doesn't grow as fast. It's not as big a contributor to the economy, but it's it still has some growth and it's good jobs. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks real hard. I have personal experience with this. I got so my FedEx number got included by accident on I had gotten some dev boards from a company, and they basically shipped me some dev boards from China and from the factory, and then it got used for the production stuff. And so I got the bill not just for the production shipping, shipping a bunch of parts over that were pretty heavy, but then I got the tariff bill too. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And it was a $2,000 bill, and then it came through.
What for
no, it was a $2,000 bill for the parts, and then 25% of that is $500. So yeah, I had to pay. What's that?
So you had to pay $500, but you had to pay 25% on top of.
I mean, I didn't have to. It was all passed through.
This was for a client.
This is for a client. The client, the client was paying for it. It wasn't a huge deal,
of course.
But I had not.
But it's when
you're when you're buying parts, you go on DigiKey Miles or whatever, they tell you, they're like, hey, these parts are subject to tariff. You're going to be charged for them. That's fine. Usually you just say, oh, it's just more expensive per piece. You don't really see it, but then it's like $500 bill. It's like, oh wow, that is smacks you in the face. So damn.
When they actually itemize things like that, it really gets you.
Right, exactly.
So,
So, and so would I, would I swap out the part? I don't know. What's the cost of swapping out a part like that? It's not footprint compatible. It's not possible to go elsewhere. I don't even think I could get a part as cheap as I did there. So it's kind of just a cost of doing business thing. But still, I'm sure that at scale, I'm sure there's a bunch of supporting engineers who are redesigning parts right now for something that's not covered by tariff, just because it really hits a bottom line.
How does this work? What if you've got a company like Microchip or Texas Instruments, any of those, which are American companies, but they get this stuff made in, they've got the plant in China or whatever?
Yeah, I think it depends on how much. I think there's some formula for how much of this stuff, because if it's just tested over there, that's not made in China, right? If it's packaged over there, I'm not sure if it's made in China. If it's if the silicon die,
over there,
if there's some percentage of components over there, then that's made in China, and it's okay.
Interesting.
I just go off of I didn't even know this is happening. Honestly, this is just FedEx sent me a bill, because that's the other thing, is that FedEx is actually processing the dollar amount for you. It's they have inspectors in house that are doing customs and whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Tariffs.
There's so much happening there, which you don't, unless you get hit with a bill like that, then you don't realize it's happening.
Yeah. Now, how does that work for you? Okay, so you're about to order parts, right? You're going to order parts. Yep. Say you order parts from DigiKey. Do you get tariffs?
Not that I'm aware of.
So if you go to digikey.au right now, does anything say tariff on there? Any search?
I can have a look.
Yeah, just because it's at least coming through this, so there's kind of a ping-ponging effect that happens with world trade, right? It's okay.
What would be a known part that has a tariff? That would have a tariff in the US?
I don't know, Dave. I'm not going to tell you the one that I was just talking about, because it's not in distribution, but
yeah, but if it's on DigiKey, what's the problem?
It's not on DigiKey. It's not in distribution.
Okay, right. Okay. Right.
Let me look at an old order. I think some of some of the caps that I've used in the past. So just search for a 0.1 microfarad capacitor. If you see anything on if you search for 0.1 microfarad capacitor and you scroll down the list, you're going to see a little tag underneath it that says tariff applied.
Right.
But I don't know if that.
Oh, is it? No, that's the. It's a ROS compliant tag. Is it in the actual list?
It would be underneath it. It'd be underneath it.
Right, so it's underneath the part number. No, I don't see anything.
Okay.
All I see is a green ROS compliant little icon.
Okay. Yeah, it's very.
There's no is it like a tariff icon?
No, it just says. Oh, these aren't. None of these say this. Damn it. What's something that I've definitely had? Let me look through an old.
This makes for great radio.
I know.
This
sorry.
Is just
I don't know where they like. This is a UI thing though too. I don't know where they put like tariff applied. I think it's in the BOM thing.
I don't see anything related to tariff at all. I can't even like filter by tariff or whatever. Like tariff or non-tariff.
If you search on the page, you're saying.
Yeah, I just.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
So here's Yageo 100 picofarad 50 volt C0G. Let me send it to you.
Okay.
Now I'm just curious if it.
Yep.
Yeah. So like on this page for me at least.
All right.
Where does it say it?
I'm having a look. Okay. Minimum alternate subject. No. Import tariff may apply to this part if shipping to the United States.
Okay. So
there
that's
you
what
go.
It is. Yeah. So it's only.
Yes.
So you don't get it even though it's only pass through.
Yeah.
So it's not like I guess the distributors of the world like the DigiKey and Mausers and Arrows and whatever they only pass through that stuff when they have to.
No, you can't do it because it's being shipped to so it's passing through the US. It's not being consumed in the US,
right?
So to speak. So so the US have no right to charge a tariff on something that's effectively not coming into their country. It's just passing through.
Yeah, but if it sits on a shelf at DigiKey, or, you know what I mean? Like then it is technically sitting there, but I think it's probably maybe it's small enough it doesn't matter, But it's like GST and taxes. It's sort of like a pass-through thing. Yeah. It's like a you like pass it on to your customer or whatever. It's like So yes, that's what it says. May apply to this party shipping to the United States. Yeah. So that's why I can't recall ever seeing something. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good for you. I mean, I think that I'd messaged with a Canadian assembly house, and I'd asked them. I was like, "Well, are you guys getting more business because of because of tariffs?"
Hey, I was going to say, wouldn't it make sense to like go to a Canadian assembly house and get them to order the parts?
I mean, to actually just do the assembly for you, probably. But I think No,
not just to do the assembly, because if you order the parts and have them delivered to you and then you on-ship them to them...
Yeah, you're talking about like a,
you're going to pay the tariff
kind of thing.
Yeah, just get them to order all the parts and they'll be shipped straight to Canada and they'll bypass you, and so there shouldn't be any tariff on those parts.
Maybe, but that might be the same thing where someone's got to pay it at some point. I don't...
Right.
Maybe that would work, but that sounds like...
Yeah, someone's at the door. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. So, anyways, they basically had said this Canadian manufacturer was like, Canada doesn't have it has some assembly houses, but doesn't have a ton. And in this case, they're like, well, we're military, so we're not, basically they weren't low cost enough that they would even be competing in the space. So that was not something they were prepared to do. But it's interesting just seeing how all this stuff. How the tariff stuff happens in the first place. I mean, like where it actually gets applied and who does it and whatever. I think it's like if you have less than $800, you don't have to pay the tariff either. It'll just not be triggered like when you go through FedEx or whatever. So, but I think it is on you to actually pay the tariff, if you don't know it. But I
assume you're talking to the audience.
I am. Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to,
Okay.
Yeah.
My new probes turned up. I got new high voltage probe stock.
Oh, nice.
Turned up FedEx. So.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, FedEx and DHL.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the day. We're recording at a different time than normal, so.
Yeah, we are. So.
I'll be traveling, so Dave was nice enough to reshuffle his schedule.
On my only day when I have a complete day
That's
available.
Right. Yeah. Well, helping the Amp Hour audience by us prognosticating about tariffs we know nothing about.
I wasn't going to do anything anyway. I don't work for a living. I just sit there and watch YouTube videos and bum around. Yep.
Well, speaking of schedules, I've been actually coordinating schedules lately. I've actually I don't know if you saw my tweet about it, but I put out a call for help to get tutors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw that.
So I've actually had two tutoring sessions.
C tutorial.
Yeah. So two tutoring sessions so far, and they've been great. And I was wondering, like, why don't we...
Oh, is this for you?
This is for me. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like for your, your course.
No, this is...
You wanted someone to...
So this is me. Right. So this is working on that same project I've been talking about here. Those super low-cost components that I found, right? So I talked about the RF chip, and then I talked about I think the STM32 I mentioned on there. I found the cheapest STM32 on LCSC, it was like 30 cents or something crazy like that in quantity. Or like not even quantity, it's like at 100, it's 30 cents or 35 cents.
Yeah.
And I wanted some help just kind of like getting it. So now I'm going to be starting a project from scratch. It's a new component, and I wanted to use I've got about a year before I need this thing to be out in the world, and it's a personal project. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to learn more about GCC and debugging with command line tools and stuff like that. And so basically, I kind of put out the call, and I've had lots of great responses so far. And people and my big thing was like, I want to pay you for your time.
Yep.
Because some people were very nice and like said, oh, I'll do it for free.
I'll do it for Nick's.
Right,
Yeah.
But it's harder to then say like, well, there's less motivation. And I realized that like even for the people I'm talking to, it's not like a ton of money, but like when there is like it's more of like this. Well, the way I look at it is like it's like music lessons effectively. Like I wouldn't go to a piano teacher and be like, well, you can be a lesson for free, and I'd be like, no, I'll pay for your time. I want to sit down and have scheduled time and whatever. So why is this a thing that I don't know about? Like, does anyone else do this? Have you ever done this?
I've never done it. No.
Yeah, I mean, like it's such a thing in the music industry, right? Like, if you want to get better and like have someone like to review your process, like in music, you go hire a teacher and you sit down with them weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I've never had I've never had a tutor ever.
I think for anything. I think what it is that it does happen, but it happens at companies, and it happens just naturally, right? And so most people are like used to having, a senior engineer they're working with, or just even coworkers.
You would have a colleague available, and they would, they'd help you out.
Right. Hey, I'm struggling with this thing. Can we sit down for a couple hours? I'll buy you lunch, even, or not even that. Just like let's just go. I'll look over your shoulder, and it's like I haven't had that in a while. I haven't had that in a long time.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I guess I could just ask, and it's been really great. It's been really, really great. When you're like, so I always kind of seem to thrash whenever I'm like trying to find answers for things for programming online. Like there's Stack Exchanges of the world, which are hit or miss, and then everybody's working on a different project, and now it's like, okay, here's the part I'm working on, here's the stuff I'm struggling with, here's what I want to do. And then it's just like someone being like, "Oh yeah, I've done that before," and I can just ask them questions. It's great. So,
although here's the thing, what did you think about the difference between you spending your valuable time learning and doing this rather than and paying for it and paying to learn to do this versus just hiring someone to actually do the job you want?
That's a good point. I had not considered that, but because this is not a project that I don't need this done. It's not like this is client work.
Right.
This is,
of course.
This is me learning stuff and getting better because I think that I can then use it for client work later. This is just building skills.
Got it.
And it was actually it was inspired by a couple things. Like one was there was actually a really, really good Ben Heck video that I think I had mentioned on the show before, but it was just Ben walking through code as he coded, right? And I just loved it, man. It was so good. And I was like, man, I've never felt as comfortable as Ben talked while he's just talking through his code. You could tell he's just done this kind of code many, many times before. And I was like, I want to get better like that. And then the same thing with working with Jeff at the conference, Jeff Kaiser. Jeff was just walking me through RF stuff, and I was just thinking about it having finding mentors then, right? So I had actually reached out to a couple people. I had reached out to an RF engineer. And he's like, hey, I don't have time. And I was like, that's legit. I respect that. Someone being like, I don't have time for it. And so just saying like, okay, I'm going to pay you hourly, and I want to make sure that I'm paying people for their time. And I want to make sure that that there's a more structured relationship more than like a soft relationship of like mentoring is kind of.
Yeah, right. Of course.
I don't know. Have you ever had like a unofficial, official mentorship relationship?
Not really. No, it's kind of just like it happens when and where it happens.
Yeah.
It's not kind of
Yeah, it's not like so some companies do this, right? They're like, you're a junior engineer.
They actually have structured, sessions and plans and things.
And I've asked people about that too, and they're like, well, that's a thing that companies do. it's not good.
Right. Okay. Why?
Because in that case it's so forced, right? Usually it's like an assignment. It's like
it's regimented.
like you're assigned with
right.
Bill, and
right.
Bill's just gonna walk you through this thing, right? It's like
Yeah, right. And Bill probably doesn't want to do it.
Bill doesn't give a shit, like
and
he's just doing
right.
that because it's part of his job. Maybe it's tied to his review, whatever.
Got it. Yeah.
Now
Right.
I've had
it's not the
some
same.
mentors that have been like ad hoc mentors just because they've been really helpful people, and it wasn't never a formalized relationship. But now I don't have that anymore either. Right? There's no one I can like just lean on and be like, hey, can I just call you can I come and like sit in your office for a couple hours? It's like, no, man, I got things to do. You don't know me. So, and like you said, you thought it was for my course. Like I've offered this same service, right? I've offered this for contextual electronics people of like tutoring, and walking people through things. And so I've experienced on the other side, and I know that can be helpful too, because sometimes you just don't know what to Google for. You don't know what friggin' button to push. You don't know. You just get this like, oh, whenever you hear that, there's some deep learning happening. There's some wheels turning.
Pennies dropped.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited about it. I'm trying to like track my progress. I'm trying to be regimented. I record the sessions. I take notes on things.
Right, wow.
I've got a running list of things that, like, because every time I do I've done 2 sessions so far with 2 different teachers, and like every time I do it, I'm like, oh, I have a lot more questions now.
Right, yeah,
so,
of course.
But I think the hard thing is going to be the same thing that's hard when you. Have you ever done an instrument, Dave?
Sorry, an instrument.
Yeah, have you ever done like music lessons or anything like that?
Oh, right, a musical instrument. No.
I mean, you're a pretty good whistler, so I assumed you took lessons for that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, the hard thing is always just it's the in between, right? The lesson is easy. It's just I
tried to take French lessons once
really?
because the company offered it.
Interesting.
And I just gave up after like 5 weeks. It was just terrible.
Okay.
Couldn't do it.
What was tough about it?
It's just, I thought that I'd be going there just to learn, like the basics, hello, how are you? It's like some basic stuff to get me by. No, they started like the formal regimented course of the feminine form and the masculine
Être,
form.
to be,
and
je suis, tu es, il est, elle est.
I have no idea what that is. My eyes
that's
just
exactly what
rolled
you're
in the
talking
back
about.
of
I
my-
am, you are, that thing.
Right.
She is, he is.
I'm surprised I lasted 5 weeks, and I just,
that's the thing.
just gave up.
And this is kind of interesting learning theory stuff too. So I'm reading a book. I started a book right now called it's like Rapid Skill Acquisition or something like that. I'll try and put it in the notes. It's basically talking about the difference. It like I can always tell when a book kind of jives with my personal, mindset around like learning. It's talking about like skills versus like education and stuff like that, and how they don't always square. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is talking my language. And it was the same thing. Like they actually gave an example of someone who like goes to learn Portuguese or just goes to Brazil and starts speaking and messing up and that same kind of thing, right?
Yep.
It sounds like you would have liked to do the latter and
do the latter.
Yeah.
I'm the latter person.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And I think that
Yep.
like there are some people that people respond in different ways, honestly. But I think that the hands-on approach, no surprise here, the guy that runs contextual electronics likes the hands-on approach. Yeah. So yeah, this all kind of jives with my perspective. I think it's going to come down to me and making sure that I actually do stuff in between. But luckily, I have, like we always talk about on here, having a project is super important.
Yep,
I think,
of course. Yeah.
The thing that you would have helped you probably, Dave, is if you had a French girlfriend. That probably would have helped you learn French a lot better.
Yeah, of course. That's
especially if she didn't speak any English, or whatever you guys call English.
Strine.
Right, strine. I would be interested to hear you say French stuff with an Australian accent.
Oh God, no, don't make me.
Je m'appelle
No.
Dave.
No. No.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
My German. When I worked in Germany, I tried.
Oh, you did?
I
I didn't-
tried.
Did I know you worked in Germany?
I tried to speak German.
Really?
Yeah, I spent a couple of weeks in Germany.
Oh, let's give it. Come on, give me something here, man. What do you got?
No,
Just like one phrase.
I
Ein Bier bitte.
can't remember. It was so many years ago.
Well, order a beer.
I can't order a beer.
Ein Bier bitte.
See, ein Bier bitte. What?
Yeah, 1 beer, please.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Yeah, well, this would have been young Dave speaking German. This would have I would pay to see
Das Inst.
that.
David Jones or something. No. I think that's This Is David Jones.
Sure.
No. That doesn't work. Anyway, No, it was just like the look of bewilderment. Even when I had the book in front of me, sometimes I would I had the word, I had the phrase, I'm standing in line to get a ticket for something, and I've got the phrase book out and I'm going to nail this. I'm going to nail it. Get to the front of the line and I say it and they just look at me with bewildered look.
That's not it. That's not it, man.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's like I just couldn't do it.
I mean, Google Translate these days is a wonderful thing.
Right, I've never had to use it.
Yeah.
Can imagine.
Well, that's great. Anyway, so I'll report back in on the tutoring thing.
Excellent.
I'm excited about it. And I'm going to hopefully try other things too. I'd like to get an RF tutor at some point too, just to get better at that stuff. What was I listening to? I may have talked about it on the show 2 weeks ago, or whenever we talked last. But there was a TED Talk with the guy that wrote the checklist book, Atul Gawande, I think his name is, but the checklist manifesto guy, and he basically promoted the same thing. And I think this might have also inspired me on some of this stuff too. But he was basically talking about there was a doctor or a surgeon who basically asked another surgeon to come in and just review his work, right?
Yeah.
And I think I did talk about this on the show. But anyways, they just reviewed his work, and basically the guy just watched him, and he's like, he had flatlined in terms of learning, and so when you have someone watching you and just giving you feedback, even if it doesn't have to be negative, right? It just has to be like, well, you did this, you didn't use the scalpel the right way in that case, or in our case, it's like,
right.
You kept drawing 45-degree traces when you shouldn't have done that on the PCB. If you and I watched each other do layout, I'm sure that we give each other. You'd give me more feedback than you, right? But
it'd be a circus. I know.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying in a best case scenario, though, right? Having someone, someone watch you and advise on what you are doing. Even it's just having a mirror, effectively, someone mirroring what you're doing and telling you what you're doing. That can be super helpful, because I don't know about you, but I have some really bad habits, and so just having some feedback on that can really improve your everyday stuff. And I think it was in that TED Talk too. They talked about musicians do this their entire career. It's not like a thing that they do just at the beginning. They do it their entire career, and so it's great. I think one of the examples was Itzhak Perlman. His wife actually was a classical violinist as well, and she would just sit in the audience and just give him feedback on how he sounded different that day, that kind of thing. So,
all right.
So yeah, just try not to.
I'm not entirely convinced this works for engineers. Engineers are solitary creatures.
There is that, and I think the big thing is that ego is huge piece here, right? So I was stressed just thinking about whether I was going to put it out on Twitter that I was looking for help, but
right.
But you got to kind of let your ego go a little bit, and it's just tough. It's tough having people tell me things that I'm bad at, even if they're being nice about it.
Yep.
So I'd love feedback though. If there's feedback on how if there are other people that are doing this too, I'd love to hear about it, because there might be a space for it. Maybe there's other people that are willing to mentor or willing to tutor.
I'm sure there's no shortage of people on those Elancy,
but I don't want to
freelancy websites.
That's a little different, I think. This is more this is relationship based still. I think it's still
right.
And this is something I've considered for contextual electronics at some point or another. Just to get experts together and some people someone who's right, you are probably too busy for this, but someone who's in your spot, right, who's been doing layout a long time, you might want to help someone out, or get paid to do tutoring, right? But you probably don't want to teach someone getting to Blinky, right? You want to teach them high speed, impedance matching type stuff, right? And things like that, and advanced topics versus more beginner topics. I've said enough about all this, so I will have more in the future, hopefully. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get back to? Should we go through the list?
Sure. I don't know how much stuff there
We've
is.
only got 10 minutes left. Well, I added a couple on there. One which I did a video about,
Which one? The Vic?
which was the tech, the engineers Australia in Victoria now. They're trying to protect the word professional or the word professional engineer.
Yeah.
Now they just Victorian government just passed a new bill which makes it basically illegal under penalty of an $80,000 fine if you call yourself a professional engineer and you're not registered
Right.
through the who knows who now, right? It's unclear how and why you get this magical registration.
Yeah, I mean, this also exists in the States, though, right? I mean, there's professional engineering designation that you can't...
Yeah, but here we've always had chartered engineer. That is protected. Well, it's not... I don't think it's protected by a bill as such. It's just, I don't know, it might be. I haven't looked into the details of that. But it's always been called chartered engineer. And I made the argument in my video that, right, it is still not illegal anywhere in this country, including Victoria, to call yourself an engineer.
Right.
Regardless of certification or qualification, right? But when you put the word professional in front of it, then it becomes illegal. That is ridiculous. The word professional.
Well, luckily, Dave, I've never called myself a professional anything, so...
Yeah, but no, come on. Let's be serious, right? It involves... that word implies that's your vocation.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what you do for a living.
I think you're right.
It's just insane.
But I think that it's
it's a bad term to try and protect.
It's a trademark thing, right? I think it's too broad of a term. You're saying.
Yes.
Right.
Totally.
I think
chartered engineer, fine.
Yeah.
Nobody calls themselves a chartered engineer. So that's this like obscure specific thing. Okay, if you want to try and protect that, go for it. Right, but just adding the word professional in front of it's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, well,
anyway,
I think that's
it's
a good question though. So, like, would you? Let's go to the absurd side of things. Would you say that anyone should be able to call themselves an engineer as well? Like, if they were,
if that's your vocation, yes.
What if they were
actively
doing harm? Living? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, probably not very well, but.
Okay, no, fine. I support it for anything involving public. Like buildings, bridges, or infrastructure, construction, all that sort of stuff. I think everyone probably agrees that, you've got to be certified and approved to,
right. Things that fall down and go boom, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. But just some nobody electronics engineer working in some, laying out their board for some industrial widget that's going to be used in a, factory that, it's silly.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I could see, I could see as things continue to get more and more complex, I could see that there's less understanding of what's going on, too. I think that people have fear about, what an engineer is and does and whatever. I think it's, some of it's just public perception, right?
Yes, but the problem is, my problem is electronics engineering, right? And this bill came about because they were trying to fix. We've got a huge scandal in this country at the moment about construction, building construction, and that's where this bill comes from. But they've put the wording in the bill is so broad that it encompasses virtually. They literally say like in any other type of engineer. This will include. So in theory, this includes software engineers, network engineers, a whole swag of people. And if you look into the technical details, it's like if you've only got a 3-year qualification or a 2-year networking qualification or some other thing, you can't even register.
Right.
It's like they've just used this one bill to encompass all forms of engineering. It's insanity. It's absolutely. I'd support this bill if it just said, oh, this is limited to the construction and infrastructure industry or something like that. Fine, beauty.
What about? I mean, well, I guess. Yeah, maybe high power, like power line type stuff might be.
Oh yeah, no, power infrastructure, power lines, power grids, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
mean,
at a certain point though, someone has to decide where those lines are drawn though, too, right? I mean, that's the other hard thing is that at some point someone's going to be like, well.
Yeah, but we've been operating, but there's been no issue with this operating in electronics engineers, either unqualified ones or ones that aren't certified, because nobody in Australia, virtually nobody in the electronics field is a member of the Institute of Engineers. It's just not a thing.
Got it. Yeah.
right? It's just, it's more for your, your civil engineers and stuff
sure.
like that.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's lobbying groups, right? For sure. I mean, it's lobbying groups who basically are protecting the trade. Same thing happens in the medical field. Same thing happens in, the other fields. I guess the real estate fields. Did you know realtor is a protected term, at least in the States?
Oh, okay.
You have to put
to
put the all rights reserved after realtor. Yeah,
wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Anyway, I know this is common in other countries, but Australia, for example, has been operating just fine for, generations, and now they want to protect electronic, and now they want to.
So how would this practically impact you? You're saying that this would.
Well, it doesn't at the moment because I'm not in Victoria. But if I was in Victoria, the only way it would impact me is if I used the word professional engineer in my resume or on my website or something like that, or that I'm offering professional engineering services. I can't use the word professional. That is now protected under a bill here in one state here, but it will eventually come here, I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think that's yeah.
Well, no, and engineers at both the Engineers Australia and this other professional engineering body, they're pushing for it in all the other states.
I see. Okay, so this is just the toehold. Okay.
Oh, yes, this is the wedge. Yep. This is the, yep. And, it's just, they just want to encompass everything.
I mean, it's how,
just insane.
okay, so again, to play the devil's advocate here, the reason that people do this kind of thing is also because it, protectionism around careers like this also drives up wages, right? Like in a positive.
Oh, of course.
In a positive
that's the argument one of these companies made.
Totally.
One of these lobbies made.
Right.
Yeah, is that you'll get on average an extra $25,000 a year if you register as a professional engineer.
Right. Because then there's regulations on that. I mean, it drives the cost up everywhere else, right? So then charging government entities who require that kind of thing, then that price goes up. Blah blah blah. There's more handling fees and whatever else. But I mean that is a soft benefit, not a soft benefit, it's a real benefit, right? For, that's why my friends who are doctors get paid a lot, at least in the States, because they have to go through all the...
Well, it's not necessarily a real benefit. It doesn't mean it's actually real.
Well, it's real in their bank account.
It doesn't mean it actually happens in practice.
Sure. What do you mean by that?
It doesn't mean that if you're certified that you're going to get paid $25,000 more. That's what they're
right.
Their
Those
own
are averages. You're right.
Shock horror. Their own internal study shows that you'll get $25,000 more if you're a professional engineer. Yeah, right. And they're the ones selling the they're the ones selling the certification.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And they're the ones who push for it in Parliament. Yeah, right.
Oh, I actually didn't tell you. I have some news. Given I think, what was it, our first episode? Maybe in our first episode or second or third. Maybe I told you this, but I'm a mole. I'm a mole now. I'm on the inside. I'm a member of the IEEE.
Oh, you finally joined.
I did, yeah.
Ah, right. Why?
For a single reason. There is a really good consulting survey they do, and it was enough for me to be like, okay, I'll do it. I want to know what other people get paid. Everybody, kind of puts in their info.
Oh, so you joined to get access to this,
to participate in the survey and to get it,
and to get the results, right?
And I think I could have bought the report for like a little bit less. I think it was like $80 to buy the report, but it's like $100 per.
Right. Okay. Usually these reports are a couple $100 or something.
And so so I'm a IEEE member.
Right.
Not card carrying, but I am.
I am literally card carrying.
Oh, you are? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's in my wallet.
Nice.
Yeah, well, an old one's in my wallet. I don't know where the new one is.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
I think I just looked in my wallet the other day. I think it's 2012 is the card I've literally got in my wallet.
Yeah. I mean, but it's a similar thing. They don't fight for the professional engineering side of things, but they do fight for, there's a lobbying component to IEEE as well, and they push for different.
And they do standards.
Yeah, exactly, and stuff like that.
And talks and things like that. They all.
I learned today. Do you know what Wi-Fi stands for? I was looking at this. Why was I looking at this? There's another wireless thing I was looking at, and it something brought up Wi-Fi, and I was like, what does Wi-Fi stand for? Do you know what it stands for?
Not offhand.
Absolutely nothing. Wi-Fi is
absolutely nothing.
It's actually a play on hi-fi, but it's not actually wireless fidelity. people like apparently like there's like arguments about it, but it's not like it's meant to just be like Wi-Fi, hi-fi, like that.
I may have a potential video coming up. I'm going to have to travel for it, but on this topic.
On Wi-Fi? Oh, this is because Wi-Fi was invented at Cicero. Are you saying
it
CSIRO?
Was, yep. And I may have. I'm negotiating access
that'd be
to
great.
certain things.
Right. And so Australia got a huge payout from that. I was obviously reading the wiki page, which I will be linking here today. But Australia got a huge CSIRO. How do you say it? Do you say
CSIRO?
Okay, yeah, they got a huge payout because of all this patent infringement. They are known as the early thing there, the early inventors of Wi-Fi, which is that's like saying like you're the microprocessor. It's like there's how many components within a microprocessor, but obviously the patents of the microprocessor. You know what I mean? Like it's a component thing, but whatever. Go Australia! That's great.
Yep.
So yeah.
Anyway, we haven't done anything with the money, though.
Oh, really? Okay.
They just cut wages. They just cut staff at CSIRO. Instead of Anyway, typical.
Well, let's end on a happy note here. Did you see the thing that Bumbled Monk posted on on the Reddit about how to pronounce hexadecimal numbers? Since we were talking about language earlier today. So this is hexadecimal. They actually have
Antine, Bettine.
That's right.
Christine, Dotton, Ernstine, Faustine, Betty.
So wait,
Christy,
I think you have to say the actual these are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these are different.
So if it's hexadecimal B0, it's Betty.
That's right. So it would be like
that actually has a name. F0 is Frosty.
Right.
What?
I think the better way to say it is like if you're counting in hex, right? You would say like it'd be 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever, all the way up to 1A, and then at 1A, although I don't know if you say, I guess you say like 19 hex, right? But 19 hex would then go to 1A, which would be Antine. That's 1A, and then Bettine, and then 1C, Christine. .teen. That's 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D.
Someone who wrote this book was taking the piss.
I mean,
right?
like that. It's ridiculous. Like, but I mean, I guess if you're operating like people who like used to operate in all opcodes, I mean, like you probably got to know it pretty well. So
please let us know in the comments if you actually work. This would be way back in the Apollo era or something like that. Right. When everyone was encoding, hexadecimal or octal or something like that. Let us know if this was a thing.
F2 is Frosty 2. A01C is Auntie Christine.
and DEAF, as in deaf, but in hexadecimal, DEAF, the hexadecimal, is Dotty Ernest Auntie Frost. What?
We could just pull. We're gonna definitely use this as the label for the show, I think.
Oh, that's just
Dotty Ernest Auntie Frost.
What the hell?
That's great.
They're taking the piss.
If there is someone out there that can tutor us in how to do, what is this even called?
Chris will pay you in multi-layer ceramic caps.
That's right. This was in the Data Motion magazine from 1968, so that's great.
Brilliant. Anyway.
All right, Dave. We'll talk to you next week.
We're out of here. Catch you next time.